Hi everyone, it's my great honor to give you this speech. To be honest, before giving you this speech, I was teaching my little sister to do her homework, which seemed to be a huge burden to her. And the fact is that the homework for Chinese students is indeed too much for the students to finish some extent. Yes, concerned with the traditional education of China, today I want to discuss the topic that we should improve our innovative thinking to a large extent, which can enhance our imagination abilities as well as the problem-solving ability. And as far as I'm concerned, the traditional Chinese education model is not so practical for Chinese students to get used to the current society after they graduate from the school. First of all, I want to show you a picture about a middle high school student who are surrounded by piles of books and test papers. Maybe you would be surprising to see how big the study burden is for Chinese students. But that is the fact for most of the students in China, no matter for middle school students or high school students or even the primary school students. The main reason to cause this situation is because currently in China, grade is still the essential factor to decide whether a student can be regarded as an A student. And the competition in China is very tense for students, especially for high school students due to the college entrance examination, which is pronounced as 高考 in Chinese. Just as the illustration of Jin Xiao in his article, China's educational reform in transition. Is it transforming? Although Chinese education department is considering to reduce the study burden of students by adding some quality orientation courses, such as painting course, singing course, or dancing course. The effect is not obvious because students right now are still having a lot of homework and competition pressure. Of course, as for this kind of situation, it cannot live without the super high expectation of Chinese parents towards their child. Actually, when we look at the education model of Chinese tradition education, it is not obvious to find that most of the courses are still teacher-oriented, which means that the core role of the teaching is teachers instead of the students, according to the illustration of Qu Bo regarding the English teaching in his published book of Changing English, Studies in Culture and Education. He discussed some traditional methods used by Chinese English teachers, which actually cannot help the Chinese students to learn English well and enjoy of the pleasure in the language learning. To some extent, the education of China is mostly focusing on the grade and performance, not the imagination or innovative abilities of students. For example, in the traditional Chinese class, the words of the teachers are mostly regarded as the 100% right words, which all the students should obey. Due to this teaching model, generally students will only believe the answer provided by the teachers or textbooks, and they will generally lose the ability to think independently and creatively. And another fact is that, in China, students are afraid of challenging the authority of teachers, which means they are afraid of putting forward different answers, which I think is a tragedy for education. According to the research conducted by Shanahan Patrick in 2011 regarding the innovative thinking ability of students coming from different countries in the world, Chinese students gained the highest grades regarding the basic knowledge of mathematics and memorizing. However, the innovative thinking ability and teamwork ability of they are the poorest among the students coming from other countries. And I think this research directly shows the fact that Chinese traditional education only enhances the ability of students to memorize a certain concept or knowledge, but neglect to maintain the comprehensive abilities of students to compete with others in the worldwide. Along with the rapid development of China's economy and the political position in the world, it is very necessary for us to learn from the Western education model, which is to put the students at the core part during the education, instead of pressing the students to obey what the teacher says or orders. Because we need to cultivate our innovative thinking ability little by little in order to catch up with the development of the world. To some extent, the knowledge we learned in the books can actually be regarded as out of style. What we should do is to open our mind and cultivate the habit of innovative thinking in order to come up with more in-style solutions to deal with the practical problems that we may meet in the future careers. At this stage, let's look at the second picture, which shows the world in the talent. That's right. What we need to pursue is not the designed correct answers, but the talents featured by us with the ability to imagine, to innovate, and to create. To draw a conclusion, what I am talking about is that, as for Chinese students, what we should do is not only to maintain our basic knowledge, but also we should try our best to cultivate the braveness to challenge that we should learn. To cultivate the ability to innovate about the world, and to open our mind to put more creative into our mind. That's all of my speech. Thank you for listening.